Hey, my name is Frank, and this is a Youthman Review. If you don't know what Youthman Review, go watch my last video where I review the Goose Chase app. But what I'm going to talk to you guys today about is Youth Ministry Tracker. So, in the Facebook group, the Youthman Facebook group, I probably see this question come up probably like once a week, maybe a little more, maybe once every other week. And it's usually either this. It's either point blank, what do you guys think of the Youth Ministry Tracker, or how do you guys take attendance in your youth group? And so before I talk about this app, because a lot of you guys have already have it, but I know a lot more people don't have it because they're on the fence whether it's worth it or not. Let me say this: you need to be taking attendance. Whether you are using an Excel doc or a paper and pen or the most intuitive program out there for churches, you got to be taking attendance. There's so many reasons to be taking attendance in your youth ministry. Even if you're a small youth group, even if you have 6 kids, it's worth taking attendance simply because of this. You get to know if you're growing or not. You get to know who's missing so you can follow up with people. And you can use it as a way for the leaders who are in the youth group to make sure that they are following up with what they're expected of if they're going on the missions trip or they're on the leadership team. There are numerous reasons why you need to be taking attendance. It helps you in budget time, so that way when you can say, hey, listen, we need more money for our youth group because we've grown by 15% or 10%. These metrics and statistics are not about trying to show off or try to be you want to, a self-absorbed youth pastor because you want to be a bigger youth group. That has nothing to do with it. Here's the point: you got to keep track of who the sheep are in your flock. Okay, I'm not trying to over spiritualize it, but you got to do it. You got to be able to keep track of everything. And you also have to have a way so that way you can have everyone's phone number, address, all that kind of stuff. So like I said, I don't care if you're using paper and pen. I was using paper and pen for about a year into this youth group, all right? And then I switched over to this app, and things have changed. And so I want to talk about Youth Ministry Tracker because I know some people have questions. I was one of the early adopters. I got it back when it was only $10, and I was still skeptical back then about, is this app worth $10? Who spends more than $1 on an app? Or in some cases, who spends more than free on an app? Well, I did, and I don't regret it. And so let me explain whether Youth Ministry Tracker is worth it for you. Here are some pros. It's a good app. It's simple. It has good statistics. The way it has people's faces, and you can just click on their face to check their attendance. It's a good app, and it's pretty simple to use. I can hand this to my 75-year-old grandma who's a volunteer, and I can send this to the guy who is on the Geek Squad at Best Buy, and they'll instantly kind of know how to run it. I might have to set it up for them and explain a little bit about it, but once you know the couple steps that you have to do to attendance or to how to register a kid into this, it's super easy, super simple, right? That's what you want from the attendance app. You don't want something that takes too much time. You don't want something that would be too complicated. It's simple and it works. The photos are super helpful because sometimes there'll be a couple new kids that come, and like I don't know their name but I know their faces. I can go to this app on my off time and just look at it because it's on my phone and see, okay, that one blonde girl, her name is Melissa, and I can start remembering names with faces. So that's super helpful, especially if you're in a larger group and it's kind of hard to keep track of names and faces. You just kind of have, hey, that one kid that always wears the blue cap, the cap and hat, cap, that's what they wear. Whatever, you can now learn names with faces, and that's super important in youth ministry, knowing names. Because at the end of the day, one thing that I remember in my youth ministry when I was growing up is that my youth pastor knew my name, and that meant a lot to me. So know their names, and this can help you learn those names. Again, it's super easy to take attendance. You just click on their face. It's not a complicated thing where you just click on their face and they're checked off and they're in the attendance for that day. And then the other cool thing that just happened is now it's on multiple devices. I can use it on my cell phone, I can use it on my iPad. If it's all on the same iCloud, I can go back and forth, and in fact I probably could take attendance on multiple devices at the same time if I have way too many kids that 2 people have to take attendance at the same time. It's pretty great in that terms, because sometimes I don't want to give my leaders my phone because I might need it because I'm waiting on a call right in the beginning of youth group or a text, and so I can give them my iPad. Or if the iPad I'm using that I'm preaching from, I can give them my phone and they can take attendance that way. So it's pretty great in those terms. The cons are really big glaring cons at the moment. One, it's $15, and I think that is probably a big turnoff for people who they can't process the idea of spending more than $1 for an app. And I get that. The most expensive app I ever owned was the ESV Study Bible app, and I'm embarrassed to talk about how much that was, but I use it all the time. And now that ESV is integrated, I'm not upset at all for how much money I spent on that app. But I understand spending more than $3 on the app is ridiculous. So spending $10 on this app, I put a lot of value and weight saying, if I use this, I better use it all the time. And now that it's gone up to $15, I would still say it's worth the price if you don't have any other system. If you don't have a system that your church uses, like Fellowship One or Church Community Builder, I'm not really familiar with these names, but I know they exist and there's attendance features in them. If you're not using something already for like your check-in process in that regard, this is a great tool, and it's only $15 if you look at it from that perspective. Not a $1,000 or $500 church-wide system. It's only $15, and it's on your phone, which is so convenient because you always have your phone, but you don't always have your laptop or your computer. So $15 isn't that much if you look at it from that perspective, but it is kind of a con for an app. Second thing is, this is a huge thing. It's not available on Android. It's not available on Windows Phone. It's not available on your Nokia brick phone that you played Snake on. It's not available on anything else but Apple. Now listen, I'm an Apple fanboy. I love Apple, and I've spent way too much in the Apple iTunes store and the App Store to leave Apple at the moment. So I don't blame them for not doing Android because Apple is the biggest market right now. However, youth pastors are not spending tons of money to get iPhones all the time. They want the Android. My wife has an Android, and I can't upload it on her phone, so that way we can do it at the same time. You have to have an Apple product to be able to use this app. So the con to this is, if you really want to use this app, you have to get like an iTouch or an iPad for your ministry. Not that bad of a deal, because you can use those as devices in a number of ways throughout your youth ministry to make it worth the cost of an iPad or an iTouch for your ministry, but it's not convenient. You have your Android phone, you have your Samsung Galaxy, you have your Note 4, whatever. You want to use it, and you can't. So Android users, listen, I'm not hating. Please don't think I'm like this evil dork of a hipster Apple guy. I love Android stuff. My wife has taught me that the only difference between this phone and that phone at the end of the day is just preference, because they're both extremely powerful and pretty amazing, and you can add cool backgrounds to the Android, whatever. I don't care. Here's the point. You can't have it on Android. I'm sorry. So that takes a whole segment of youth pastors out of this conversation. And one thing that bugs me, that's the last con for this, is that you can't send stats conveniently to your computer. So the only way you can send stats, which it makes great like PDF stat sheets of your attendance, like it'll tell you how many people coming from this and that and all that stuff. It'll tell you all those good stuff, but the only way you can send it to your computer is if you use the native Mail app in your phone. Now I don't know about you guys, but I don't use Mail. I don't use the Mail app. I use Inbox by Gmail, because I just don't like the native email apps that Apple makes. And so because of that, I'm hearing right now all the Samsung Galaxy and the Google people saying, well, why don't you just use an Android then? Go, take a nap. It's not that big of a deal. I just decided that I don't want to use it. I want to use Inbox, and so I can't necessarily send over those really gorgeous PDFs that they make initially. But if I need to, I'll just open the Mail app for a short period of time so I can send them over. So, is it worth it? I think it is if you don't have a church system already. And then, like listen, the stats are so great. Like, I'll tell you how many homeschool 9th grade girls went to last night's service. How many senior high kids that go to that one public school where, I mean, it has very specific details that you can filter to see all that kind of stuff. And I can tell from there who was here, who was not here, who do I need to chase after, who is this new kid. Another con that I need to tell you guys before you guys get this app is this. It's a pain on the front end to load all the information in. Like, it took me 2 weeks of handing my phone for all these stank kids with their greasy hands, touching my phone, taking selfies, and putting the information in there. It took a long time. One thing to minimize that time is you have your leader, and they're typing the information as they tell it to them, so that way it's faster. They're not worried about, what should my nickname be? Or, you know, you just say, hey, take a selfie and just tell me this information, and that'll kind of make things go faster. One feature they add that would make it a lot easier is if you can just take a bunch of selfies in the very beginning, or just like have people stand up and just take a picture of them one by one, and you already have all the information, you have their address, you have their phone number, you have all that stuff, you can then later just upload the image to the app and then type all everything in, which is convenient. But stuff like Twitter and Instagram, those things aren't in the fields to add, which I think are very important for youth ministry. Everything I've just said to you, weigh it out. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? I'm not in your youth group. I don't know your context. It might not be worth it for you. It might be simpler and easier to just use a paper and pen. But it might be completely worth it if you're like me in my context to use this. So if you have any questions specifically, like Frank, you said something but you mumbled, you talked too fast, or tell me something more specific about these stats. Hey, hit me up. Youth Ministry Tracker isn't paying me to say any of this. I'm giving you my honest thing. I'm not sure if it's for everybody, but it worked for me. I'll tell you, if you hit me up, I'll tell you what works, what doesn't work, and I'll give you my honest opinion. And I can even tell you after you tell me your context if it might not be worth it for you, all right? So hit me up on all the social networks. If you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. Tell your friends about it. And until next time, see you later.